Hello, and welcome to the 2020 New York Comic Con panel for CBS's Evil. We have a lot of things in store for you today. An in-depth Q&A with the cast and creators, a special look at Season 2, and digging into a few of Season 1's many secrets. But before we get to all of that, let's check out a recap of the wild first season.
Ms. Bouchard, I work for the Catholic Church. My colleague Ben and I are hired by the church to investigate unexplained phenomena.
I didn't know that was a job.
It is.
Waters! Don't stay out too late.
Never! Cheryl,
Leland.
I thought this was about possession.
Supposedly.
Why do you want me doing this?
I want your skepticism.
Leave this to the professionals.
You're in way over your head, Miss Bouchard.
Are you still working with that new job, that demonic possession thing?
The world is getting worse because evil is no longer isolated. It's connected.
God draws in straight lines. The devil draws in puzzles and anagrams.
Are you texting?
This map is a hierarchy of demons.
There are 60 of them for 60 demons.
Cheryl, will you marry me?
Yes!
And with that, I'd love to introduce the cast and creators of Evil. Today, I'm joined by stars Katja Herbers, Mike Colter, Aasif Mandvi, Michael Emerson, Christine Lahti, Kurt Fuller, and co-creators and executive producers Michelle King and Robert King. Thank you all for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Robert and Michelle, I understand you guys put together a trailer, but I'm curious, how do you guys do that since you haven't started shooting yet?
Yeah, CBS was so intent on the show, they gave us $32 million to put this trailer together. So we used the best cinematography, the best writing, and we decided to get the gang together in very expensive locations of Madrid, Stockholm. So even though these backgrounds look like standard homes, they really are all over the world. So we grabbed scenes from all over the map of season 2 and cut it together in this very expensive trailer.
Well, let's check it out.
Evil is growing. It starts with one wrong move.
Go back to bed, kids. There's nothing to worry about. Your mommy's okay.
Then it multiplies.
The blood on your leg yesterday? Where did that come from?
And it can't be stopped.
The bishop wants us to assess whether this man needs an exorcism.
Who is it?
Kristen and David. What a small world.
And what was objectionable yesterday becomes nearly normal.
The most wonderful woman has entered my life, and our wedding is just around the corner.
We have to decide, do we want a groom cake too?
That's why I need an exorcism.
And then evil gets its hold.
I see something at night. Something entering my room.
I am so done with DJs and wedding planners. I was only using you to get at your daughter to hurt her. Well, now she's hurt. So we're done.
I had a vision of the devil hugging her.
Hugging who?
Kristen.
Don't you dare call me bitch. I know where all your skeletons are buried. You threaten me, and I will come after you, you evil little fuck.
So, if you're not bothered, why call me to come in today?
Well, I came into contact with an object, and it left a rash on my skin.
Then evil takes over your life.
Go away.
What the hell is that?
You don't exist. I know you don't exist.
No. No. Make it stop.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned.
Coming soon, evil shows another face.
Oh, God.
Aasif, that was some of your best work.
I smell Emmy.
I smell something.
Well, okay, so before we dig into season 2, I do want to sort of look back at season 1, which I think was one of the breakouts of last year. And I guess for the entire cast, what do you think viewers sort of really latched onto in season 1? And do you think it's the same thing that you guys were all attracted to when you joined the show?
I think one of the things that the audience latched a hold of, and I think I did as well, is the similarities of the show and real life. And what I mean by that, I think there's so many things that parallel real life that are only happening in the heads of the characters. And there's so many people that reached out, fans that is, via social media, and people I would walk and bump into in the streets that would say, there's so many things that they connect with. There's so many things that they relate to. There's so many things that they are like, they would go so deep and so fast in a conversation that would last 30 seconds and tell me things about the show that I didn't notice because it happened to them. People who had night terrors, people who were seminarians, people who had tried to go to Catholic school and went a certain way and then changed their minds. Because this show really does encapsulate a lot of what people do experience in life, but don't talk about it out in the open. And I think that's what catches people's attention.
Well, it all starts with the brilliant writing of Robert and Michelle, and that's definitely what drew me to the project. And I think, unfortunately, we live in a time where, you don't have to look very far to find evil. And for me, at least, it's very helpful to be able to process what's happening in the world while playing Kristen. And I think it might also be really nice to watch this show and be able to process some of the things that are happening and have a good scare, but also have a good laugh.
I think the show is really surprising. It doesn't go always in the direction that you think it's going to go. And some of our most effective storylines, I think, are not about, a demon or a ghost. They're about like psychological stuff or things that like exist in the world, technology, how that's used. So I think what keeps the audience interested is that the palette has widened so much from just what you think is just going to be an exorcism or something, so I think that has kept the audience interested and it makes it fun for us as well to explore these different aspects of how you enter this concept of evil, from different vantage points.
Well, you're all wrong. And I'm really the definitive thing, and I'm going to tell you, sure, it's scary, sure, it talks about evil, but the relationships between the characters, the interplay, the depth of it, the rhythms of all the relationships, it's just so evocative and so true, and you really don't know where it's going, and people react in ways that are real and not sort of TV dramatic. It's real relationships between people, and I think that is what sucks people in and keeps them going. I think we can go on to the next question.
To be fair, Kurt has not seen the show.
I have not. I have read my lines and yelled them in, but that's about it. So.
I just wanted to add that one of the reasons I was so drawn to it was Robert and Michelle are able to be so hilariously funny and incredibly scary and emotional at all the same time. And I'm so thrilled to see where they take all these characters because you never know with them.
I like the particular kind of horror that we trade in on this show, where we walk a fine line between scaring people to death or tickling them. I like being in that place where it could fall either way.
And before we move to season 2, I do want to circle back to the finale, which had a lot happen. I want to start with Katja. I mean, the season finale heavily implies that Kristen murdered someone and is either possessed or at least corrupted by this act. What did you make of that final scene and that final shot? And so what was going through your head when you sort of shot that beat?
Well, I think we don't know, first of all, if she did kill LaRue. I think we're meant to think that she did, and we will find out if she did. But but we don't officially know that.
I wanted to go into with Michael and Christine because Leland and Cheryl got engaged at the end of the season, and with Christine, I'm curious because it's clear that Leland sort of is manipulating Cheryl to an extent. What do you think sort of really attracts her to Leland, and I guess and makes her want to sort of risk her relationship with her family for this sort of engagement?
Yeah, I don't see Cheryl as being manipulated by this man. I think she knows exactly what she's getting into. He's exciting. He's breaking all the rules. Her daughter, if I may say, Katja, is a stick in the mud. She's very narrow-minded. Plays by all the rules. And I think that Cheryl's, wants to really just have an incredible adventure. And she doesn't really see, I don't think she's so easily influenced as that. I think she's got a dark side as well. I think she's been through a lot. I think she's had, some bullies in her past, and she doesn't put up with it. So I don't know what's happening in season 2, but I have a feeling there's going to be a reckoning, I hope.
And Michael, I'm curious on your end, up until this point though, do you think any of this relationship is real for him, or is it all just a act to get what he wants?
Well, it's a lot of fun because he's addicted to mischief, and he's profiled her well. He's analyzed her, and for the time being, or for a spell, their needs dovetailed fairly neatly. But of course, he's not to be trusted.
What?
And I guess my last thing about season 1, I wanted for Robert and Michelle. I think this season you guys had this puzzle that was related to the numbers and the episode titles that confused many people. I still haven't figured it out because I'm not that smart. For you guys, can you sort of explain what was actually going on there with the puzzle and the episode titles?
Procrastination. That's what was.
It really is true. We were just having fun for ourselves. There were so many TV shows talking about like Westworld. The show was a puzzle, and we thought it'd be more fun just to have the puzzle be not in the drama, but be part of the show. There were all these puzzle pieces hidden throughout 12
literal puzzle pieces.
Yeah, hidden throughout 12 of the 13 episodes. And they're slightly hard to find because our editors had a lot of fun hiding them. But they are glimpsed often in the corner of frames, but sometimes over white or over sky. And these puzzle pieces are actual like puzzle pieces for a puzzle. And they're all the same size, so you don't need to shrink them or blow them up. And they fit together into an actual puzzle, a 32-piece puzzle and there are 2 of those puzzles. Those 2 puzzles have to be overlapped. And the other part of the clue is the numbers in the titles. I think that's all we should say. It's at the end of this, there is a prize of some kind. There's actually 60 prizes, which mimics the 60 mentioned in the show, that each has a clue to the second season's puzzles, which are hangman puzzles. So there you go.
I gotta ask, I know you guys like your shows to be as timely as possible. Do you plan on tackling the COVID pandemic in any way in season 2?
The show has a natural inclination to go to plague because of Revelation and because this season has like an avenging angel character that is supposedly good, but talks in terms of evil of killing millions of people and so on. So in many ways it's there. I wouldn't say we lead with that because we're afraid of seeming like we're following the herd.
You're not going to see Kurt Fuller in a mask. If that's really
not at least that mask anyway.
I was hoping for a stunt bump there.
Well, actually, that's a great segue to my question for Kurt, because I think in season 1, Boggs was sort of he like tapped into the cases once in a while. In season 2, I guess, as far as you know, can we expect him to have a more significant presence in sort of the cases that Kristen and the gang are dealing with?
Well, that's up to these 2 over here, but I'll tell you what I think. Boggs, he's an empiricist. He wants to believe what can be proven and seen, but he's also human, and in season one, he witnessed some things that can sort of be explained. And Kristen is getting worse and worse. And as season two starts, she's even worse. And whatever I've been doing with her hasn't been working. And I've always been suspicious of this group of losers that she's working with, you know, and I am the only person that she's completely honest with. She seems to be honest with others, but believe me, she tells me things that she has not told anybody else. And I don't know how I'm going to pull her out of this. She's in bad shape, and it's getting worse. So yeah, I think I'm going to be much more involved.
Michelle and Robert, is he right? in his
I don't think now is the moment to bring it down.
And Aasif, I think in season one, sort of Ben is definitely skeptical of all of this. I guess coming to season two, do you think that he is more open to the possibility of supernatural going on, or is he still firmly sort of in search of a scientific explanation for all the phenomena they're encountering?
Well, I think you're right in the sense that Ben is, I mean, regardless of what Kurt says, Ben is the true empiricist. He doesn't really believe in that or religion or anything. He really is a person who, you know, is grounded in what he can touch, taste, you know, what he can quantify. And I think from the little I know of season two, that is going to be challenged in some way for Ben next season, where I think there's going to be a little bit of him struggling with things that he maybe can't explain. Because one thing that Ben, I think, is really needs to do is explain this stuff. And sometimes he can't. I think we're going to see him challenged a little bit more in terms of that certainty.
For Michelle and Robert and Aasif, going off of that a bit, I mean, you guys gave Ben some romance last season with Vanessa, who also believes that she has her ghost sister as part of her. Can we expect to see her again in season two? And what can you say to how Ben's relationship with her has progressed or not progressed in season two?
Yes, we do anticipate seeing her back. We're looking forward to it.
She's written into episodes. Obviously, it's always about can you get the actor, but she's written into the fabric of the season. So yes. Also, we loved Karima, which was Ben's sister, and we expect to see her back. It's really about Ben and why he became a contractor. And we think there's very strong need to understand why Ben has ended up where he's ended up, which he could be in a great, you know, genetics lab job that would bring in $200,000 a year or $300,000 a year. And why is he doing contractor and why is he doing this job? So I think that takes us to family. It takes us to his background, both his family's religion and his cultural background. And, you know, his affection for Vanessa, or, you know, and his erotic affection, which trumps his worry that she's also a little insane.
And looking ahead a bit more to with Robert and Michelle, I mean, in season one, we met Leland's demon therapist and also George. I mean, will you introduce any new demons and monsters this season? And can you share or preview which ones?
Well, one is that Avenging Angel, which I think we brought even a picture from you from Joel Harlow, which is already designed, and we'll first glimpse, I won't say which number episode because then there's no surprise, right? In one of the 13 episodes. And then there is a character named Abby, who is a version of George. We have, I would say, 5 or 6 new scary things this year. You know, we don't want to give away too much because it's often fun to be surprised. But I think we were more intent on this year of having scares that were essential to the plotting of the show. Sometimes the first season, they were there because they were thematically correct. They made sense with where we knew we were going with the fertility clinic, for example. But what we were aware this year was essentially building the scares into the plotting.
And speaking of scares, I mean, Michael, I think in season one, Leland does a lot of just awful things, sort of trying to push this one boy to shoot up the meeting. And among other things. For you, I guess, how hard was it for you to sort of not only sort of get into character as Leland, but then also sort of shake him off at the end of the day?
Well, I don't have a lot of trouble getting into the character of Leland, but there are some themes that you know are hot, and that stuff was hot. So I worried about, you know, tone and how far things would go. I think it worked out really well, but yikes, it was touchy.
It's interesting. Michael's mentioning the incel episodes, and those were ones that we all looked to with some trepidation and were very, very careful, both in the writing and in the producing of it. And everyone brought their craft to that. Because we didn't want to glamorize it, and that's always anything you put on television rises in glamour for whatever reason. And so we were very careful. I mean, even down to the point of when Dan Lawson, our wonderful wardrobe designer, dressed him, if you'll notice, these are ill-fitting clothes, slightly ill-fitting, so that we're never meant to think, oh, what a wonderful person that shooter is, and how can I be more like that?
I mean, looking ahead for Michael and the Kings, I mean, what can we expect from what's in store for Leland this season?
Well, I actually think that our very expensive teaser suggested something of that, which is that Michael is really about corrupting David, about Mike Colter's character, and one of the ways to do it is pretending, or maybe even meaning, but let's say pretending that he needs an exorcism because he sold his soul to the devil. And if you're, if you are an exorcist, or even if you're an assessor like David is, I think the Bishop Mark character argues to him, this is a guy who's calling for help. Even if it's sarcastic, do you reject it? And I think that is a very difficult subject for anybody who's truly Christian.
Mike Colter, I guess, is that something you're looking forward to, I guess, digging into and exploring David's dynamic with Leland, which has only been sort of hinted at so far?
Yeah, I love the time that the writers are taking to sort of get into the character's backstory and suggest things and then let it develop slowly. Because at the start of the first season, we knew that there was some backstory with Leland and David's character that went back quite a ways, and they didn't really touch it, and I kind of like that, because sometimes you're watching television, and the fact that you don't get a chance to get all the information and you're watching the characters interact, that's more interesting sometimes than shows that try to divulge a lot of information at once, so the audience is caught up and they understand everything that's going on and they feel like they're in. I like to sort of figure it out for myself, and I think as long as audiences are trying to figure things out, it makes them come back every week trying to figure out a little more.
And as teased in the trailer as well, I mean, David is sort of grappling with this vision he had of Kristen sort of approaching the devil at the end of last season. I guess, how do you think that will sort of also affect the way in which he relates to her going forward?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I hadn't given much thought of that, because when that happened and when we shot that, I think like most people, we were wondering, is this actually happening, or is it something that, and obviously we saw the scene with Leland and therapist. So when David awoke or came to in his office, because I guess he had gone on a trip, or had sort of had a vision without the drugs helping. And so I think now it's going to be interesting, but yes, I don't think there's any way around it. David is definitely going to take Kristen's character in a little differently, because he knows that she doesn't believe the same things that he believes. So they're always talking on different wavelengths. He respects what she brings to the table, but he does feel like the things that he sees are legitimate. So how does he convey this to her? How does he get her to actually pay attention to it? Does he say something to her? Does he just observe? And there's so many things, but it's going to give a lot of great, interesting things for me to play with, and I think for the scenes to have underneath it, because we won't necessarily be able to talk about all this stuff at once or ever, who knows, but it's underneath it, and the audience will have it in their back pocket, so we'll see how it sort of develops.
And I know, Michelle and Robert, in the past, you sort of talked about how you guys sort of didn't, with the show, you sort of didn't set out necessarily with a plan to get Kristen and David together. How can we expect their relationship to develop this in season 2?
With great complications. I mean, we're moving David closer and closer to ordination. It's a bit of a countdown this year. And I think the question is, it's like the movie when someone's going to get married to someone else. Are they, there's that romantic comedy or that romantic drama element of, if that's a demarcation point of an end of possibility. I guess we've been bitten a little bit by what we did with Good Wife with Josh Charles, Juliana Margulies' character, which is there was so much obsession about that kind of relationship. It kind of took over, it basically kept the audience from being able to see other things. So what I really thought we were writing with this relationship was a relationship of the intellect too. So anyway, part of it is romance, but part of it is romance of the mind, which I don't think is an interesting way to go with characters, especially on TV, because it's either you slap skin or nothing. There's very little in between.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you said slap skin. Could you what? I don't know. I'm lost. What is that? Is that clapping? Is that?
Yes.
That is what we meant.
I guess to wrap up, last thing for the Kings, I mean, just overall, what are you sort of most looking forward to people seeing in season 2 in terms of what you guys have in store?
Strangely, it's one episode specifically. For the longest time, Michelle and I, maybe I'll confess me, have wanted to do a silent episode where you use only visuals to tell the story. And we've never been able to do it over the course of The Good Wife or Good Fight.
Go figure that we have to do that.
And this season, what we had is our 3 main characters go to a silent retreat because of a possible sainthood of a monk who died there. There's a legend that comes out that they realize that a demon has been held in a cabinet in the monastery. And if a single word is spoken, and hasn't been spoken in 95 years that this monastery existed, if a single word is spoken, this demon will be let out.
Cool. Well, Robert, if you got your silent episode, when will Michelle get her musical episode?
When indeed.
Well, thank you guys so much for spending time with me today. This has been really fun. And I can't wait to see what comes up in season 2. To the fans, you can catch all of season 1 of Evil streaming on Netflix right now, and season 2 is coming soon on CBS.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Thank you.
Thanks.
Miss you guys.
Miss
Yeah.
you.
Miss you guys
See you
soon.
guys.